Well, my relationship with you is crap because I'm so angry about this divorce. Well, be a man, separate your relationships like you have for our entire plural.
A young, tall man enters a solemn ceremony. He is not camera ready. He does not arrive with drama or publicity. He arrives with something in his hand, a couple of faded metal military dog tags. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't have to he knelt next to a plain urn containing the ashes of his brother Brother, who had laughed heartily, loved intensely, and departed much too early. The audience sees him remove the tags around his own neck and set them softly, alongside the ashes. It's not just a gesture, it's a promise. A last discussion between two brothers who are held together by fraternity. Sacrifice and shared suffering next with trembling. Hands he dips into a sack and extracts something out of context. A beverage his brother's favorite and in full view of everyone without a word. He opens it and spills it out on the ground. A toast. Farewell, a memory all in one painful instant. But this tale is not merely loss, it is about the one individual the cameras never truly saw. The brother who always remained. Behind the scenes, Theo and the world heard of but seldom witnessed. They've lived life outside of the limelight, outside of scripted scenes and histrionic confrontations. But today, they came back for one reason only. Love. This family member, soft-spoken, reserved, fundamentally real, was at the heart of the family's most poignant scene. Not for fame, not for headlines, but to pay a debt that cameras could never possibly repay. This family has shared with the world every possible story, joy, strife, reconciliation, and sorrow. But this private gesture by a sibling we hardly knew may be the most compelling of all, because sometimes the strongest presence is the one that does the least talking. Sometimes healing starts where the flash fades, and sometimes it's the quiet that make the biggest impression stick with us as we take you behind the scenes of a tale of sorrow, strength, and the sort of family connection that no script can write. You're about to see a side of this narrative that few have ever witnessed, and even fewer actually comprehend. There's always been a lingering tension regarding how the rest of the family perceives Robyn, that latent jealousy and silent disdain. It's something that's been picked up on by fans for years. Hello friends, and welcome back. I'm Sienna, and I'm TLC Future Today. We're diving into one of the most emotional and heartfelt episodes of Sister Wife Season 19. The latest episode captured a deeply moving moment as the Brown family mourned the devastating loss of Garrison. His ashes were lovingly carried to their final resting place in the beautiful, quiet landscapes of Wyoming. But amidst the tears and tributes, one voice stood out: Garrison's Uncle Tim. His words caused heated responses on the net. What did he say that had fans abuzz? Let's take a closer look as the show began. We saw a sad farewell gathering. Janelle and her children reunited, although there was happiness in the reunion. The purpose behind their gathering was weighed down. With grief, they had gathered to bid adieu bury. Garrison's remains were at the heart of this solemn, emotional goodbye. Christine's and Janelle's children also spent time reconnecting, enjoying quiet moments, fishing, and looking back. But before long, the atmosphere turned somber when Kody and a few family members started digging Garrison's grave. In his interview, Kody had said he wanted to do everything in his power to honor his son. But here's where it gets interesting. Most fans were stung by the frustration. Social media exploded with opinion. People felt Kody acted too late. Why wait until death to exhibit honor? They complained the grief was authentic. But so was the anger. And then Uncle Tim spoke. What happened next caught everyone off guard at Garrison's funeral. Tim began his eulogy with a line that fans knew right away it came from The Princess Bride. This bit of nostalgia was no accident. Fans guessed that Garrison was an enormous fan of the movie. Even mimicking the priest's famous lisp, Tim sported a Hawaiian shirt, one of Garrison's favorites, as he added a personal, comforting element to an otherwise dreary day. But what truly spoke to fans was the message Tim had. He spoke softly but honestly of a father's remorse and a mother's loss. His words were substantial without being unkind. One line resonated: be someone who shows up for others so they'll one day show up for you. A quiet, strong rebuke that rang with many as being aimed directly at Kody. It wasn't bitter, it was honest. And in this moment, Tim got it just right. Now here's the part that really pulled at heartstrings. As the ceremony progressed, emotions ran high. Family members quietly cried, But then Payton stood up and delivered a tribute that caused people to smile through tears, had talked of how he and Garrison, both soldiers, had exchanged dog tags once, a symbolic representation of their friendship. And in one last act of love, Payton made one final drink for his brother, doing something that had been a tradition they shared. But the surprises did not stop there. Leon Brown, who rarely appears on the show, showed up to honor their late brother Leon, the only biological child of Mary and the third of Kody's children, has kept a low profile in recent years after coming out as transgender in 2022. Leon has embraced they-them pronouns and maintained a private life, yet here they were quietly paying tribute and standing. With their family, their presence told it all. Sometimes being there in silence tells us more than 1,000 words. This moment wasn't all about grieving, it was about togetherness. Truth and confronting unpleasant realities, it reminded everyone that family isn't perfect, mourning is never easy, and love tends to surface in the smallest things. So what did you guys think of Uncle Tim's eulogy? Do you think Kody did what he did out of love or regret? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if this touched your heart, be sure to like, subscribe, and stick with us for more emotional experiences from sister wives.
David has one of his friends lives like 3 or 4 hours from here, so he's come up to see David.
One of the most painful and emotional episodes of Sister Wives Season 19 just aired, and it was all about the collective mourning of the Brown family after the sudden passing of Garrison. Brown, the episode opens. The newest installment brings us to a solemn and heart-wrenching reunion where the family comes together to bury Garrison's ashes in Wyoming. Janelle Brown and her kids were at the center of this coming together, not only to grieve, but to connect through sadness. The siblings, including Christine's kids, shared fleeting moments of peace, even going fishing together, a small acknowledgement of normally in the middle of all this sadness role of Kody and public backlash. Subsequently, Kody Brown was also spotted helping dig the grave for his son in his interview. He mentioned wanting to do everything to honor Garrison. However, fans on social media criticized him, quoting that paying tribute to your child should start when they are still living. Post their death doesn't really count. Uncle Tim's eulogy was memorable. One of the times when everyone was paying attention was during the touching eulogy by Garrison's uncle, Uncle Tim. There were comments that his remarks used lines from The Princess Bride, a movie thought to be Garrison's favorite. Tim even parodied the film's priest's famous lisp, a cozy, surprising means to diffuse the somber atmosphere in the room. Dressed in Garrison's beloved Hawaiian shirt, Tim brought the life force of the young man to vivid life and spoke openly about loss, regret, and the value of being present for the ones you love, though he did not directly call Kody out. His words were widely interpreted as a veiled rebuke. Fans applauded Tim's dignity and sincerity. Payton Brown's tribute, another poignant moment, was shared by Garrison's brother, Paedon Brown, in a heartwarming gesture. He spoke of how they used to exchange military tags, a special connection, a soldier's between them. He also prepared one final drink for his brother, representing their bond. It was a show of brotherly love that touched the hearts of viewers. Leon Brown's uncommon appearance, perhaps most striking, was the appearance of Kody and Mary Brown's only child, Leon Brown, who came out astrans in 2022 and prefers they-them pronouns, has largely retired from public life and from the show, but for Garrison's funeral, they did attend, quiet, respectful, and present. Leon was seen sitting beside their sister, Maddie Brownish, who openly expressed her complex feelings toward their father. Kody, I'm angry at the way things happened, Maddie said, while also expressing sadness for Robyn's children and extending a heartfelt apology if she'd ever caused them harm. Leon was quiet, but involved, and supporters enjoyed seeing them both there. As a sign of solidarity and encouragement on Instagram, Leon posted a picture with Garrison referencing Dragonheart to the stars, Bowen to the stars. They later posted another statement on the anniversary of the death of Garrison, I miss you more every day. It doesn't get easier, it just gets longer. Mary Brown respects Leon's privacy. Mary Brown did not talk much about Leon in public, being considerate of their privacy. In December 2024, she revealed, they haven't chosen to be too public. We communicate greatly, but I don't speak as much about them. They're doing well. The real heart of the episode, what made this moment so potent, wasn't the loss, it was the naked humanity. A family stretched apart by tension and distance over many years was reunited for a common cause. The sorrow was genuine. The hugs were sustained. And the silences, though, suspended moments, said everything. Her silent sorrow, revealed in her lengthy hugs and distant glances, conveyed a hurt beyond language, A last goodbye in Wyoming. The family put Garrison's remains in his preferred place of rest among the pine-clad hills of Wyoming in the last shots. It was not a burial. It was a settling of accounts. Sorrow, remorse, healing, and love existed in that instant. For the Brown family and audiences, it was a reminder of what is most important in an installment of the Veteran Family reality show. Recently, broadcast fans were treated to an extraordinary and intensely moving reunion of the Brown clan. They had come together to bury their adored brother and son, Garrison Brown, who took his own life on March 5th, 2024, at the young age of 25 years. The show, which was broadcast on May 18th, 2025, filmed a page in the family's history that extended beyond the typical intrigue and into something real and raw. A family mourning, healing, and remembering as one among those. Who came back for the poignant occasion was Leon Brown, who made a very public outing for the first time alongside sister Maddie Brown. Brush, their subdued presence and listening during an emotional discussion with Brush, were telling Brush, looking back at the agony of their family's breakups, explained. So with Kody, it's like I'm mad at how things went down. She continued, I'm sad for him, and I'm really sad for Robyn's kids. I would say I don't have anything against you if I talked with any one of them, and I apologize if I've ever hurt you in any way. Leon, who'd said little, then commented on a desire to reach out to Robyn's children, highlighting a subdued need for reconciliation. Leon had also paid tribute to Garrison on Instagram after he passed away, sharing a picture of the two with the caption in quotes from Dragonheart, which was Garrison's favorite. Movie to the stars. Bowen to these stars they shared again on the anniversary of Garrison's death. I miss you more every day. It doesn't get easier, it just gets longer. And their mother, Mary Brown, with a reputation for fiercely guarding Leon's privacy, shared a rare insight in December 2024, saying, only, they're doing fine, we talk a lot, but I don't talk about them so much. As the family made their way to a gusty corner of Wyoming, where rolling hills gave way to pine-scented air, they gathered not only to lay a son to rest, but to face the intricacies of lost love.
I do think I want to stay separated for now.
And what could have been in a muted expression of Garrison's passion for fishing, his siblings dropped hooks into an adjacent lake, allowing sun and laughter to mix momentarily with grief later when Kody Brown, once the family's focal patriarch, gravely raised a shovel to begin digging earth his silence and face betrayed an uncommon vulnerability. When he finally broke his silence with, the camera's longtime viewers couldn't help but wonder, where was the sentimentality while Garrison was living and suffering? The question reverberated throughout social media as many of the followers lamented but also felt frustrated, reminding us all that love that is delayed often feels like love denied. But the most resonant moment came from a most unexpected place, a not often seen uncle wearing a floral blouse, Riolan of Garrison's one-of-a-kind style. He emerged into the spotlight together with a subdued elegance, his voice subtly lisped and fanciful, or recited a line from a fondly remembered childhood film travesty. Bathing but profoundly moving, it caught the audience by surprise into laughter and tears. Both what ensued was a poignant reflection on presence and memory. He reminded us that it is not always the grand gestures that define our legacy, but the steady showing up. His words recognized both a mother's raw sadness and a father's unspoken regret, not to accuse but to shed light. Internet forums applauded his speech, commenting on how his offbeat yet deliberate attire had been a nod to Garrison's wonderful personality. He had become in that instant not only a speaker, but a conduit tone who conveyed humor, sadness, and profound respect in equal proportion. This was not merely a funeral, it was an accounting, and more significantly, a celebration. Ultimately, the broadcast presented more than tears and hugs. It presented a mirror. It reflected a family broken but still reaching, still striving, still remembering. It brought viewers back to basics. The legacy we leave isn't inscribed on stone, but in the hearts of those who remember us, not for how wedded, but for how we lived and loved. And maybe that is the greatest tribute of all. It was more than a memorial. It was a thanksgiving for a life that had been lived, for laughter that had been exchanged, and for a special kind of love that is possible only between brothers, in a moment that left many gasping. A young, tall man identified by his military background and fearless nature moved forward in dignified silence. He did not utter a word. He did not have to. Clutched in his hand was a small object, mundane to some, but dear to him, a pair of metal dog tags held close to his heart. Quietly, respectfully, He took them off and placed them next to the vessel holding his brother's remains. It was a movement freighted with symbolism, solidarity, grief, and a silent dialogue between two brothers, one living, the other dead. In that little gesture, the whole relationship was revealed. His vision obscured by tears and shaky hands, he dug into his bag and pulled out a drink, something his brother had enjoyed. Pouring it onto the ground, a shared gasp ran through the crowd. It was a goodbye and a toast. It was brotherhood distilled into a moment. Then later he spoke. Not in grandiose pronouncements, but in tender recollections. He referred to his brothers, a mirror, a guide, a buddy. They had traveled along the same road, and, although one path had been cut short far too early, their bond was not severed. As the day unfolded, it became clear that the ceremony offered more than just closure. It exposed fault, lines long buried under family silence. Grief in Alet's pain also became a thread pulling together those who had drifted apart. Through time and tension, there were no grand reconciliations, no tearful embraces on camera, but there were meaningful glances, quiet apologies and gestures that said, "I'm still here." Once the cameras were pointed away, some remained behind. They sat in stillness by the grave, the wind their only words. Others shared simple comforts, a hand on the shoulder, a shared photograph. A single tear dabbed away in silence. In those moments of quiet, the nuance of family broke down into something more primal. Connection. Where his ashes were placed was not haphazard. It was thoughtfully selected, a background of hills and trees, of laughter of a child, and memories of family, a spot where housed to smile. Unself-consciously now, the earth would bear his memory. The sky, the wind, the trees, the earth cradled him as if it took new what had been lost. His mother leaned in and whispered that it wasn't goodbye, but a promise to keep him alive in stories, in photographs and laughter. His presence would live on, not only in memory, but also in the way they now decided to show up for one another. As the sun fell below the mountains, its warm rays grazed tear-stained cheeks and lighted faces with a silent determination. The family departed with sorrow, but also with newly healed wounds, silent comprehension, and the legacy of a short but powerful life. No dramatic departures, no yelling, no accusations, but the sound of leaves rustling, the silence of sorrow, and the wind bearing. Words never uttered out loud to all who observed from a distance. The message was, unmistakable presence is important. Words are important. Love needs to be expressed while hearts continue to beat. And sometimes the way we remember the dead can mend tears. Even time cannot among this popular reality TV clan.
It's not rock hard abs. I'm a man of flesh and bone.
There was one who had long remained off the radar, but on this day, all public and private became one thing more than anything else. Human in grief, in love, in memory, in the course of the long, complicated, and frequently widely publicized path of their famous family. There is one character who has been relatively invisible, a muted figure, infrequently quoted, infrequently seen, respected for their private personality and love of secrecy. This person has preferred to stay out of the limelight even while those nearest to them have made their lives the focus of public interest. But at a recent reunion marred by profound loss, this hidden family member emerged quietly into the light. It wasn't for drama, it wasn't for TV, it was for family. The event was a sad one, a goodbye ceremony for a young man whose life was cut all too short. He was a cherished brother, a son, a talented individual, with dreams and aspirations. His death rocked the family to its foundations, and devoted fans used to spectacle and tabloid attention witnessed something else: exposure, unadorned emotion, and a family coming to terms with loss. Among those who assembled, the mysterious sibling was noticeable neither for what they did or didn't say, but for what they represented. They came back not for show, but for intent, for healing, for love. As a child of the patriarch of the family and one of his wives, they have been in an unusual place in the family equation all along. While often spoken about by others, they have almost never been on camera. Their existence has been one of reserve, remoteness defined by a need for authenticity and solitude over the past several years. They've bravely come forward and identified themselves openly, using pronouns that accurately describe who they are, and venturing out from the confines of traditional gender roles. Their identity, whispered in affirmation, but never fully sought out, has always stayed in the background of the family's television narrative. a quiet reminder of the layers that are never visible to the public. And in this most poignant chapter, they're showing up at the memorial, exposed, both their strength and emotional roots. The tribute to the deceased brother uncovered heartache. The loss of the young man was a crushing blow not just to his immediate family, but to the people who had grown to love them through the television screen. His interests, his sense of humor, his aspirations for the future were cut short. And with his death, the flimsy threads that bound the family together were stretched to breaking point. Once again, the private sibling was observed standing next to their half-sister, a well-known figure with the audience. Famous for being outspoken and having had a contentious relationship with their common father. Their discussion was filled with years of unresolved conflicts, he cried. Grew angry and carried the burden of emotional scars inflicted by their father's decisions, her voice rare, of both anger and yearning, a futile effort to make peace with the past, and want peace while she talked the quieter sibling. Listened, serene-centered. Their silence conveyed empathy, sustaining thoracness of their common history, with quiet respect. They didn't need to provide solutions. Their presence itself, measured reflective, could speak volumes. Elsewhere in the group, other relatives reacted with varying degrees of response. Some resorted to laughter, a coping mechanism against the suffocating weight of grief. Others were quiet, heads down. These images showed how differently individuals walk around pain and how even within a single family there is noon way through sorrow. This moment, more than any prior to it, enabled audiences to look past the cutscenes and manufactured confessions. It revealed the long-lasting pain of broken relationships, the power of being present, the long-lasting reality that loss has a way of bringing out the deepest elements of ourselves for the sibling who has long existed in the shadows. This was not an act it was coming home to. Family in the truest sense, a declaration of love, support, and integrity in a world that so frequently celebrates the opposite. And for observers, it was a gentle reminder. Not every strength is boastful. Some of it is soft-spoken. Some of it listens. And some of it just shows up amidst one of the family's most tragic moments. The appearance of a seldom seen family member provided a subdued but dramatic depth to the story unfolding. Although there has been a focus on the center siblings, even the patriarch's most recent wife's children were included in the emotional dialogue. Their presence was a reminder of just how complicated this blended family is, their different bloodlines intertwined by experience and shared loss. Grief is not the sole property of those nearest. By blood, its shockwaves envelop every aspect of the family, even those least likely to be in the forefront. Amid emotional moments of remembrance, there were hesitant gestures of healing, apologies exchanged between estranged siblings, small nods of past suffering, and the wish, albeit fragile, to start anew. These moments rested quietly in contrast to the more boisterous conflicts that have hitherto characterized the family's narrative behind the scenes. This private sibling paid their own respect to their deceased brother on social media. In one of the posts was an evocative quote from a favorite fantasy movie, a line that held special significance to the brother who died. Accompanying it was a precious picture of the two of them when they were younger and full of promise. It touched a deep nerve among fans familiar with their close relationship, echoing far beyond comments and likes on the day that marked the anniversary of their brother's death. They went back once again to speak from the heart, this time to contemplate the changing burden of loss. Their words did not provide closure, but rather acknowledged a deeper reality that loss does not diminish with time. It enlarges, reforming everything around it. These profoundly personal thoughts touched many, giving a glimpse of the lasting connection between siblings, one now divided between memory and reality. Their own mother, known to be private, has showed respect for her child's desire to stay away from the limelight. In one of the few moments she has ever been open, she assured fans that her child is Finn. She was proud of their resilience, respecting the relationship they have, which lies away from the public eye. It was a reminder that support does not always come loudly. It can remain steady, silent, and consistent as this tender tale went along. Audiences were reminded that beneath the surface of every public family, there is a messy tangle of love, pain, and survival. This unassuming sibling's return, humble, genuine, and rooted in reality, wasn't about just honoring the brother they lost. It was about honoring the transcendent power of family, the gravity of loss, and the strength it takes to stay true to yourself, particularly in life's darkest places. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more thought-out updates, reflections, Andrea life stories shared with love. Get more updates on a daily basis.